Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Yes, we're still talking about the same thing that we've been talking about for days. I'm adding a few new things to the mix, but for the most part, we are continuing the conversation of probably the most important thing that's happening right now in this moment, and that is the tens of thousands of illegals that are pouring across our border in this moment as we speak. It is happening. The amount of crime, the amount of human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun trafficking, disease, petty theft, violence that is coming across the border is astronomical, even if you just look at the most conservative statistics. Because of the amount of numbers, when we're talking 500,000 or more every month based on the numbers that we've seen in the last few days. And Title 42 doesn't actually end until tonight. And so it's expected to just get even worse. And so we definitely need to be talking about that, because this is a very existential crisis of our time right now. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things going on that's important. And we'll talk about those a little bit here today, but this is extremely important. And I don't think in any way, I'm exaggerating the situation. So, this is new content. I know you said probably to yourself, I just watched one this morning and yesterday about the border issue. What more is there to tell? Well, there's a lot more to tell, because things keep changing by the moment, and it's getting worse, really. Nothing's getting better, but you need to know, because, here's the thing. If you watch my video this morning, I'm posting a video on Patreon as kind of a part two, or to continue that conversation. This isn't just about, as nefarious and bad as it is, it's not just about people coming into this country and kind of destabilizing things and causing, crime and stuff. This is really at the core, the whole Great Reset, Agenda 2030 plan. I mean, we've seen this happen and happening over the last several years in Europe, and we've watched how Europe has been rapidly failing and kind of crumbling in Europe because of the overburden of third world migrants coming into their countries that have no intentions to be productive citizens. They just want to kind of, drain the system and retaliate against Europeans because they don't like them, because of a different skin color, or because they're more prosperous, or because they have a different belief. And whether or not this has been fostered through natural ways or through the internet and George Soros funded organizations or not, it is happening. And that's what we're seeing and will continue to see here in the United States. So this is a bigger deal than, and as big as it is, it's a bigger deal than just people coming across the border and committing violent crimes or trafficking in illegal activities. It's even bigger than that. This is the planned destruction of the United States. It is a war that is happening on our border, and it's a shame that far too many people are actually get it. They're just not awake, because it's not being broadcast 24/7 on the news. If it was, well, there would probably be more people talking about it. And I know that everyone's talking about the Trump debate or the Trump town hall meeting last night. I watched clips of it. He did pretty good. Um, he looked very presidential. He looked way more presidential than the current president, and maybe even more presidential than all the other candidates running against him. And I'm not a fanboy of Trump. When he's done good, I've complimented him. When he's done bad, I've criticized him. But he looked pretty good last night. But there's a lot more going on than that. So I want to get into that. We're going to share a screen here. I have put a bunch of stuff on my Twitter. It's just easier for me to do these. I post it on my Twitter page, and then I can share the screen and scroll through. That way I'm not bouncing back and forth trying to pull up all these different sites and things that's happened. So if you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. But if you want to go to my Twitter feed, it's the Prepared Homestead. You can go there and get notices of all the stuff that I find and post. Some of it I use to make videos, and some of it I don't. Here's one. Let's watch this one. I don't think there's any sound to this one, but for all of you humanitarians and environmentalists, This here is the trash. Now, this is the river here. This grass and stuff, this is the United States, okay? So on the other side of that river that you just saw there on the edge, that's the Mexican side. So what they do, if you've watched any of these videos recently where they come across the river, or anywhere, but usually the river, see there's the river up there in your upper right-hand corner. They come across and they usually have a trash bag with them tied up, and so that trash bag has their necessities and it has a change of clothes. So they come across this river, they're wet, they're muddy, they're stinky from hiking for, a couple hundred yards after they got off the buses that delivered them up here. And they come across and they change clothes and then they dump all their stuff. They also dump identifications because it's easier for them if they don't have identifications. So if they come across and they have passports and IDs, it's more official. But if they have nothing and we're just like, we don't know who they are, um, well, you pretty much let them in. And so this is the scene that's happening on the border there. The amount of garbage and trash that's pouring across. Let's scroll up here, because there's several things that's going on. Of course, the bank failures, looks like that there's gonna be some extra fees for banks, to cover FDIC expenses. That's gonna hurt the economy. We're getting to the good stuff. Feds arrest a Chinese spy in Boston. Um, US debt default would have very serious repercussions, according to the IMF. Now, I wanna segue just a minute to this debt default thing, and then we'll get back into the border. I don't know. Will we default or not? I mean, according to what's being said by both Republicans and Democrats, it looks like that's the case. Janet Yellen's been out there warning about this. There's reports that she's been contacting CEOs of major companies to kind of prepare them for it. The International Monetary Fund now has jumped in on it. My gut tells me is at the last minute there's going to be a compromise, and it probably means that the Republicans are going to be the one compromising to get it done. But that may not happen. I mean, we could go into default. Maybe their intention is for this to happen so that it can push. Because think about it, if we go into default at the time when all these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of illegals are coming across the border, this is a complete recipe for disaster, folks. I mean, it's like throwing gasoline or jet fuel on a fire. Um, Now, here's the thing. A lot of these experts I've been listening to are saying that it doesn't have to, the debt default doesn't have to happen for us to have a lot of bad problems, meaning that let's just say the debt default is June 1st. They've been hinting around June 1st or thereafter. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's June 1st, and we get to a week out from that. There could be markets collapsing. There could be people pulling out of investments, investments, US dollars. It could be a snowball effect. And even though by June 1st, they may sign something and extend the debt ceiling, the damage will have already been done. And there would be a black eye on the US economy. So that's also a lot of concern with a lot of these experts, that even if at the very last minute, like at midnight, they pass some kind of debt ceiling increase, which I don't agree with. But regardless, if they do, it could still cause lots of repercussions. And just in case you're wondering, I believe it's all planned. I believe most certainly they're doing this all for a purpose. Israel has been struck with a lot of rockets. This was 4 hours ago, and saying that there was over 100, and I've seen reports since then. Some of these rockets are making through that Iron Dome. And there's been reports of more advanced tech rockets being used so that they're making it through. So this conflict over there between the Gaza Strip and Israel it's just heating up more and more. Poland transferred some MiGs to Ukraine. There's my morning video. Pacific West bank shares have been plummeting all day again, teetering on whether it's going to collapse. It's been wondered about that for the last week or two. Let's see. Moving up here, here's where we want to get to. So here's a report. This Nick Sortor, he's a pretty reputable reporter. You can look it up and find where this was said. But the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas DPS, the head of it, has told Fox News that they are preparing for civil unrest tonight. They're preparing. There's been videos of them getting out riot gear, of Humvees pulling up, of them bringing down lots of National Guard and DPS there in Texas, because they have information and they believe that there's going to be some civil unrest, that there could very well be at midnight a massive rush across the border. And so they're preparing for that. Will that end up in violence? Will there be, there could be a lot of things happen. And so we need to kind of be ready for that also. Moving up here, this one here, this is a beautiful work of art. Mayorkas, he's the Department of Homeland Security director, would not answer the question as to whether or not what the actual cost to the American people all these illegals coming across, and I will show that to you here in a little bit. But we're scrolling, we're building with anticipation to the big stuff that's happened today. It's actually really detrimental. 1/5 of all U.S. office spaces are empty and not paying rent in the United States. Here we go. So let's move over to here. As of today, this afternoon, the Border Patrol chief authorizes the release of migrants into the United States without court date as Title 42 ends. Now, yesterday, I said that it was being reported that they were coming across and they were giving them court dates, meaning they declare, that they are seeking asylum, and they're like, all right, you can come on in then, and we'll give you a court date where the courts can determine whether or not you can actually stay here. And those court dates were 3 and 4 years in advance. So they were setting up court dates in 2026, 2027, sometimes even 2028, which is ridiculous, because so they're going to be in this country for 3-4 years before they actually go and have their day in court to determine whether or not they can stay here or not. They could have a family built by then. Well, now they've said we're so overwhelmed that we're not even going to do that. We're not even going to do that. We're just going to release them and say, you know what, sometime and some point in the future, we're going to try to look you up, wink, 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 and tell you that it's probably time for you to come to court. In other words, it's pretty much immunity that they're giving them. They're just saying, come here, you can get across the border, and you're on your own. And well, no, you're not on your own, because here's a free, EBT card. Here's a free cell phone. We'll probably get you some housing, put you into school, send your kids to school. You got any medical things that you need to do, all this kind of stuff. And we're not even going to trouble you with a court date 3 or 4 years in advance. We're just going to not set one at all, right? This is my goodness. If people can't see that this administration and these globalists are not hell-bent on destroying this nation and the Western civilization, I don't know what to tell you. This right here is just one more big piece of evidence indicating that they don't care about this. They don't care. They want it to happen because they want the destruction of our country. They want a destruction of our way of life. They want a destruction of our traditions, our values, our biblical beliefs. They want to destroy it all. And they know in doing this, it'll happen. This here, I'm going to give you a warning. It's not vulgar in any way, but there's a part in here that's hard to hear. Some of you already know about this because it's been talked about in another video a few weeks back. But it's brought up again on this video. And again, I am not a fan of Fox News. I wasn't a fan of Fox News before they fired Tucker Carlson, okay? I haven't watched Fox News in probably over a decade, other than just little clips like this. But this guest that they have on here, he's a radio and podcast host. He definitely speaks the truth. And so I'm going to play this so that you can hear it.
They know what's happening to these kids. And I think everyone needs to have a moment where you understand this was done by design. This wasn't an accident. This was not a crisis at any point to this administration. They designed this deliberately to happen. What you're seeing today with these drone pictures was designed by the Biden administration. They said, we are going to open up our border. We are going to allow for chaos.
Yep.
And what they're not being held accountable for, and the part that makes me angry, is the human trafficking. And
listen at this, folks, because this is the truth. It's just true.
They knew there was going to be sex trafficking. I'm not sure they understood just how bad it was going to be. You've had multiple children now where they found more than 100 different DNAs on that child.
This is these
That
stories
means
are confirmed.
People got their hands on that child, and people don't want to talk about this, but that's what's happening in Texas right now.
It's the kind of people that are coming across that they're doing this, and that what he just said about the child, that has been verified as true by doctors that's examined these children, that some of these children, boys and girls, are coming across with up to 100 different DNAs in them. I don't have to be too explicit there to kind of explain what's going on. There have been multiple reports of people that are being trafficked by these coyotes, these cartels, and maybe something goes wrong. Maybe they don't do what they're supposed to do. Maybe they can't pay up, and they find them decapitated or dismembered or these horrible things. It's happening on the Mexican side and on the American side. There's reports of these cartels moving into border farms on the American side, and they'll go in and they'll kill everybody on the farm. They'll kill them all, bury them in the backyard, and take over the farm and turn it into some kind of drug production facility or something. This stuff is happening, and this administration and the globalists that are funded and that are supported, this is what they want, folks. You need to wake up, because this is a war. Reports this afternoon, actually, this was just within the last hour. I did see some reports yesterday, but a lot of people couldn't figure out why. But a lot of cities in Texas and in other places, they're showing up, or people are seeing. Let me see if I can. There we go. My internet's running a little slow, so apologize. They are these big transport vans. They're seeing hundreds and hundreds of them. Now, we don't have anything specific saying what that is, but there's been reports at like Dallas, and this is in Mission, Texas, other places where there's parking lots and there's filled with them. And the belief is that they're preparing to load up all these hundreds of thousands of illegals into these vans and then just take them, which is what DHS has said they're going to do. Okay, that's not a conspiracy theory. DHS said that they're going to load them up and they're going to just start dispersing them around the country. And so that's what a lot of people believe these vehicles are being staged for. We can't confirm that, but that is what's being said. And then here, I want to play this. So this here, and then I've got one more thing. So this is, if you can read it, this is just on the other side of McAllen, Texas, in Reynosa, Mexico, border city. These are Haitians, and I saw another report that they estimate that it was at least 15,000 there. So these are Haitians getting ready to cross into the United States. And there's someone, you can't see the camera, but there's someone speaking to them, advising them what the process is like and everything. And they look American, because if you look, some of the people in this close to this camera, right about, hold on, right there, see that? They look American. And they sound American, and they're telling them, now the Title 42 is done. It's just like it was before COVID. You can just walk right on in here. So give me a second here, and I'll play this. Oops.
So back to the regular U.S. immigration laws the way it was before COVID. So back to the regular U.S. immigration laws the way it was before COVID.
So here's, I have lots of questions here that I'm sure will never get answered. Are these humanitarians? Are these government employees? Like this, and how many Americans, you may know this because you're watching my channel and you're watching other people talking about this. How many Americans don't know about this? How many Americans don't know that this is bigger than just what's at the border, that you can go down into Panama, you can go all the way down to South America, and you can track where they are gathering people, and there's trains of them, buses filled. They're not walking from Panama to Mexico, to the southern border of the United States, folks. They're not walking that distance. You can map it out. It's thousands of miles that supposedly they're walking. They're not, okay? They're putting them on buses that are paid for by George Soros and Bill Gates and all these other globalists, Klaus Schwab's and all them. And they're bringing them within, maybe a couple hundred yards of the border, so they can get some photos of them, walking, look like they're actually walking to the border. I've watched a few reports of journalists. And these aren't necessarily like right-wing, fringy, um, small media journal. These are journalists of like local TV stations and stuff down there that are not only being forbidden to get close to the border to take pictures and video, that there's actually been reports over the last few days of several of them being arrested. That if they get close to the border, like with the border fence or the wall or anything, that Border Patrol are arresting reporters, that they're only allowing reporters that have been approved by the Border Patrol. So these are like the big, New York Times, the ones that's just, they're buttering Biden's bread kind of people. But regular reporters are not being allowed. And one reporter stated that there was several over the last several days. There were several that were either detained or actually arrested for being. That's reporters, folks. That he was saying that it was actually easier for them to cross over into Mexico and stand on the Mexican side and film across to the United States side than to stand on the United States side. That they can't do that. This is what's happening. This is what's happening in your country. That one I showed earlier, that Mayorkas, the head of DHS, they were asking him what the actual cost of all these illegals are, and he couldn't answer that question. Now, this picture that I'm going to show you, this is from 2017. These are numbers from 2017, which if you go to 2017 are immigration numbers, illegal immigration was actually pretty low. It was a fraction of what it is now. A fraction. Like it was, a tiny fraction. We were dealing with like 25,000 people a month coming across the border. And now before Title 42 ends, we're dealing with 250 to 300,000 crossing the border. And after Title 42 ends tonight, you're talking 500 to 600, maybe more thousand. So these numbers are probably substantially bigger than they are, is showing this. But if you look at this, my state of Missouri, $365 million a year is what the total cost to the people of Missouri. 11 billion in Texas, 623 in Oklahoma, 23 billion in California, 6.3 billion in Florida. These numbers are astronomical. Now, of course, there's links down here. You can pause the video and you can go look these links up. But even if they're a little exaggerated, even if they were exaggerated by 20, 30%, the true numbers are shocking, especially considering that the amount of illegals coming across the border right now are well over 10 times they were when this study was made. So think about that. The amount of illegals that are coming across the border now are at minimum 10 times, maybe 20 times, 10 to 20 times as much. Because the average amount of illegals coming across the border during Biden's administration has been almost a quarter of a million, 250,000 a month. 250,000 a month. When this study was made, the average was around 25, 30,000. So already it's been 10 times. And then now with Title 42 ending, they're saying 500 to 700,000 coming across the border. So the numbers of illegals coming into this country on a monthly basis are 10 to 20 times what they were when this study was made. And this is just looking at, and it says excluding federal costs. See that up here at the top, excluding federal costs. And this is just looking at the cost. This is not looking at the violent levels, the amount of trafficking, the horrible abuse to children and women. And it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, just since Biden has been in office, what they've lost something like 87,000 children that's crossed the border. If it wasn't so desperately sad, that would almost be funny, but that's horrific. I mean, they complained about Trump putting them in cages, even though Obama started that. But Biden's lost track of 87,000 children coming across the border. They don't know where they went. I mean, hopefully they didn't go to Epstein's Island because, he doesn't own that anymore. They moved him somewhere else where he's totally off the grid. This is the kind of evilness that we're faced with. And that's why I'm beating this one just seriously. This is serious stuff, folks, because it's happening right now. This isn't, well, the dollar could collapse. Well, we may, not make the debt ceiling change. Oh, we may go to World War III. Oh, there may be another pandemic. Oh, there may be a diesel shortage. There may be a food shortage. There may be this. No, there's no maybe about this. There's been 10 to 18,000 people coming across the border illegally a day just in the last few days, every day. And they're expecting, and you saw they're expecting it tonight for there to be just a mad rush of them. There could be tens and tens of thousands coming across starting tonight into the next day or two. This is serious, and it's yes, it sounds dramatic, and oh, Travis, you sound so dramatic and heated. Well, it is dramatic, folks. This is serious. You need to be seriously getting yourself ready. I mean, um, our country is changing. It already has, but this is not something I think we can go back to. There's not going to be normal after this. Okay, we're never going back to before this happened. This will forever change us. If you don't believe that, look at what's going on and has gone on for the last few years in Europe. The amount of just violence, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And it's done for purpose. This is all part of the Great Reset, World Economic Forum Agenda 2030 plan, and these people are coming from all over the world. They're flooding the West with third world nation people because they can, and I'm sure they're being told that it's these bad Westerners, it's these bad white people because they have all this money and they don't give it to you, and you need to go there and you can just take it. I mean, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but it seems that at least many of them may have that idea because of the way they behave. You need to be getting your houses in order very seriously, preparing, building tribe, building your defenses, getting yourself prepared to very possibly live completely without any assistance and outside the system if things really start crumbling, which it looks like there's a good chance of that. Get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.